So a coalition of minority and immigrant business owners have filed a class action lawsuit against Mayor Zoran Mamdani over his city-run grocery stores because they are putting them in areas that are going to drastically take business away from local businesses like bodegas, delis, grocery stores, and stuff like that. And anyone who's not familiar with New York knows that those stores are primarily owned by immigrants, minorities, and stuff like that. So the Multicultural Business Coalition has filed the lawsuit on behalf of these businesses, and then that was like the little background, and then the part that kind of sums up how stupid this all is their reaction to how to deal with the problem that this would then take business away from minority businesses. And to anyone's surprise, with socialism, their response was to give subsidies and tax breaks to those businesses that will be affected. So essentially, now we're giving more taxpayer money to a problem that was caused by the government.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh my God. So take so they oh my God. So they're gonna take more money and make things more expensive. But we predicted that this would happen, right? We predicted that
Who
this
could
would
have
happen.
possibly seen this coming?
Yeah. Like you can't compete with the government. This is unfair to small business. And now small business is noticing that their customers are being taken away from them because they cannot compete with the government. So now that the small business is complaining, the answer is to steal from big business to give to small business. That means that you're punishing the small businesses that manage to make it big. So you see the hierarchy here: government business, small business, big business. Government business is the most inefficient and is stealing customers from small business. And when small business is realizing that this is like the government is stealing from them, then you pay them. So basically, that's the money that you're taking from big business to give to small business. That's a punishment for figuring out a way to serve more people. So you're punishing the every business that has managed to find a way to create more goods and services in a more efficient way. You have to take away from them. So that means like you're creating less incentives to find a way to make it big, to grow, to create more wealth. So they keep kicking instead of realizing like, oh, this was a bad idea, we shouldn't have done this. So what you do is that you delay the damage, you push it farther down the line, and you will eventually make it bigger. You have to just make it unseen, and the more you put the garbage under the carpet, the eventually the bigger the stench is going to become. This is always just like every time the governments try to fix things, they break things instead of fixing it. And to cover the things that they have broken, they have to break bigger things until everything goes to crap. Anyways, there are twos in
We
there.
have a bunch of twos. Yeah, let's go to Jose first.
Alistair, have you heard about that experiment going off in Florida? You know what happened? The community-run grocery store went out of business. Why did it go out? And within 3 months, why? Oh, same thing Mandani's doing. They're not allowed. They're not going to be selling meat. They're not going to have hot foods. So if those stores want to really compete against them, become a butcher shop, become a deli, because those are the two. I worked in grocery stores. Those are the two highest profiting parts of any grocery chain. And it doesn't matter how much less the Mandani makes his goods. From what I understand, he's going from even a bodega has a couple of hundred products in it. He's going to smaller numbers of products, just more of it, for everyone to be fairly represented and get their stuff. So to me, the bodegas have one way of fighting back if they weren't being taxed as shit by Mandani. So good luck, but just remember, it's happened 3 times in the United States, and all 3 times, those businesses, government-run businesses, went out of business quickly. Why? They didn't realize what makes a grocery store run.
Okay. Noise next.
Yeah, and also like one of the basic things of economics is if supply goes up, um, well, no, supply and demand can also like cause prices to go up. So like if there's more demand on that grocery store, prices can go up. So um but I agree with what Jose said. I mean, this is this is not going to end well for Mondami at least. I hope those business owners win their lawsuit.
Okay, Samantha.
I'm sorry, but like people are more important than businesses. Like people having access to food is more important than businesses staying afloat. Like remember when the bridge, like they blew up a bridge in freaking Iran, and how like both you and Goldie were saying how like, oh, like Iran's real infrastructure is the people, not the bridge. Like we can't bring Nika Shemaraki back. We can't bring Kian, I forgot his last name back, who was like a little kid who they was killed by the regime. Like that was Iran's real infrastructure. We can't bring them back. We can rebuild a bridge. The bridge is not our real infrastructure. Our real infrastructure is the people we can't bring back. Like you guys understand when it comes to Iran that like people are more important than material things. It's the same thing for America. It's the same thing for New York City. The people of New York City are more important than any material thing. The people of New York City are more important than any business. The people having access to food is more important. Like food is a need. It's not a necessity. It is a need. And people having access to food in New York City is more important than literally any other thing that could possibly exist in New York City.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam, that's why we are against all of this, because we don't think government-run grocery stores increase people's access to food. It reduces people's access to food, right? So you compare it to Iran, right? The reason we want the best infrastructure, we want the best wealth, we want the best businesses in Iran, right? The thing is that the infrastructure that we say, if you have to destroy them to destroy them, is because the infrastructure is being used by the Islamic Republic to survive. If that, I mean, I'm not in favor of going and destroying them right now, but if it comes to it, if that's what's needed, we want those infrastructures to be destroyed. If that's what's needed, so that the regime falls, so that when the regime falls, we could build better infrastructure, right, that it goes to serve the people. But we do care about the wealth of the people. You're saying like we care about people, not businesses. Well, businesses feed people, right? People need businesses. The businesses are the way, like we care about the people, but people need to live. And for people to live, they need goods and services. Who provides those goods and services? The businesses. So being pro-business is being pro-people. Do you understand? Being pro-business is being pro-people, because people need goods and services, and businesses is the framework where they receive those goods and services. Do you understand how being pro-business is being pro-people, right? Like how, like if you, people need food, right? People need food, people need shelter, people need clothes. Okay, who provides that? Businesses. So being pro-business is being pro-people. Okay, governments are not good at providing food, shelter, and clothing and medicine. They're not good at it. So being against the government providing these things is not us taking it the side of businesses and against the people. It's us defending the best way to provide the needs of the people to the people, the most efficient way. Because the way you look at it, Sam, is that when you see the government providing food and shelter to the people, you assume, like for some reason, you assume that it's free, just because the people who are getting the food, getting the shelter, are not paying for it while they're receiving it. But it is not free. Okay, it's being taken from somewhere else. And if you actually do the math, and I know you're good at math, so if you go and do the math, you see that they end up paying more. You know, if you do the calculation, anything that is labeled as free is actually more expensive than when it wasn't being labeled as free. Okay? Because you're not paying for it at the time of consumption, you are not keeping track of how much you're paying for it. But because it's being taken away from your pocket from somewhere else, they get to take more from your pocket because you're not noticing how you're paying for it, right? And it also, because it doesn't follow the profit motive, it doesn't follow that, instead the profit incentive, it ends up being inefficient. And it reduces competition, and it reduces the quality, and it reduces the quantity. And it also, because it's not by the profit motive and it's being done by government bureaucrats, they steal, and they basically they needlessly inflate the processes in which that takes place for you to eventually get that service or that good, right? And also because they're taking it from the parts of the society that has been the most productive and the most efficient in providing those goods and services, they kill productivity, right? Because for the government to be able to reallocate wealth, they have to take it from the productive parts of the society and give it to the less productive parts of society. And because of that, they kill productivity, and they reduce the amount of wealth that is being generated in a society. And it makes sense for the people who are less productive. At the beginning, it seemed like they're winning because something is being given to them. Okay, something is being given to them, but the size of the pie is being reduced because wealth is being redistributed, but the total amount of wealth is being reduced. So for a short amount of time, the poor feel like somebody is doing them a favor, but you could do this only for too long. At some point, there's not enough to redistribute because you have killed productivity, and there's not enough. There is no longer enough to take to give to the poor, right? So you think like what you hear when we are pro business and pro profit, the way that your mind understands it is that we are pro business and anti people. I don't need you to agree with us that this is helps people, right? But I do want you to understand that we're not doing this because we think that businesses are more important than people. If we are pro business, is because we are pro people, right? And businesses are a tool to serve people. Like the end of the day, what matters is the well-being of the highest amount of people, right? And the differences between us and you is not that we have a different goal. Like I don't it's not that you care for the people and we hate people and we hate poor people. That's not what's happening here, right? And I want you to understand, even if you disagree with our methods and you might be right and we might be wrong, I want you to understand that people who are supporting capitalism is not because they're pro rich people and pro business and anti poor people. Okay, they genuinely believe, in my opinion correctly, but in your opinion wrongly, okay, but they genuinely believe that this feeds more poor people. More poor people will end up having more because of this method. They do care about the poor people. The goal is to have highest amount of well-being for the highest amount of people. Now, either your way is correct or our way is correct, okay, or something, maybe something in the middle, right? But it's important to acknowledge that we're trying to achieve the same goal. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you for listening. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Let the records show Samantha agreed and nodded. Okay, Elisa is next.
Okay. Sorry. I couldn't find the mic button. Yeah, I just wanted to say to Samantha's point, um at the end of the day, you got to take into account how the food gets to the grocery stores, right? So as Armin said, uh the farmers need to pay for fuel, fertilizer, equipment, manpower to grow the crops. Once the crops have been grown and harvested, you need more fossil fuels and manpower and equipment to get the food from the farm to the grocery stores. And that whole entire process, that whole chain costs money. somebody's got to pay, and somebody's got to pay for it somehow along the way, right? So like that's just the reality. So it's just really important to take that into consideration, that it's like, yeah, obviously, like, normal human beings who aren't sociopaths, we care about people, we want everybody to eat, but you have to take into account the reality of, like, how do we make that happen, right? um the other thing I wanted to say is, um I kind of wanted to tie this back into how we were talking a little bit earlier about protective tariffs and everything. And Jeffrey put it in the chat about how you can have like a public-private partnership to increase efficacy. So um, at at no point, how do I put this? Um, there are certain things that for the purposes of national security and for the purposes of protecting sovereignty, that the government should make sure that we at all times are able to have a supply of energy, be able to produce our own energy. We don't want to rely too heavily on other countries for things that are necessary for a country to run, right? So the government does have a duty to kind of step in and make sure that those industries are being supported and protected, not by fully owning those companies, but basically the way it works is that the government would essentially provide a line of credit to private businesses. So that's how we're getting these nuclear power plants are being built. The nuclear power plants are being built by private businesses who took a line of credit from the government in order to fund those power plants getting built, right? So that's an example of a private public partnership working to make things more efficacious, right? So in that sense, that's where government intervention is working, is working well, is working for the actual good of the people. But the way that Mondami, who is a communist, wants to do these public city-owned grocery stores, he's going about it in the most inefficient way possible. It's doomed to fail from the very jump.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Let's go to Alice there.
So touching on Sam's point about the poor people and people that are hungry and stuff like that. I really wish in America we had a system that was specifically designated to find the poor people and help them with food assistance. Oh wait, we do. It's called SNAP, and that system is specifically designed for people of very low income to get food assistance from the government. We already have it. It's already a system that's in place. What Mamdani is proposing is a store that is not going to, he's building 5 grocery stores for $70 million. And anyone who knows construction knows that it's going to be more than that. And this store's going to sell food 30% lower and receive free rent and tax breaks from the city. So now we're paying $70 million for 5 grocery stores and are going to be a constant drain on city resources. They're not ever going to make a profit because they're selling 30% cheaper, and they cannot, like, with that amount, you cannot support the cost of business. It doesn't work. So it's going to be a constant drain on resources. And then kind of just the way I propose this to a lot of people that I go to school with that are very that find these policies very appealing is I give them this I propose this idea. Let's say you have 2 bubblegum stores right next to each other. One of them sells bubblegum for, let's just say, $5, and it's good bubblegum. The other one sells bad bubblegum for $8. The one that sells bad bubblegum for $8 either needs to get better bubblegum and find a way to sell it at a better price, or go out of business. But if you just have one bubblegum store, they can charge whatever they want and find whatever quality bubblegum they want to sell. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. But you have 2 stores that are in competition. They're competing with each other for the best product at the best price to sell to the consumers.
Wait, Alistair, I don't. Let me know if you agree with this. I believe that the only government program that I approve of when it comes to helping people who can't afford the food at market prices is to just give them the money. All right. I don't know. I don't understand why. Like, nobody has been able to show to me that there is a better program government program that could support the poor people. Like I don't understand the SNAP and this other thing. Nothing. The SNAP thing, I don't like it. I don't like it. Wait, I think like I don't know what it does. It does it give people money? The SNAP program, just anybody who can't afford food, just don't give them food. Just give them the goddamn money to go buy the food from wherever they sell food. Increase the competition instead of reducing it. But go on.
So SNAP is essentially like a voucher program from what I understand. It's like you get like almost food vouchers, like coupons and stuff, but you know,
No.
they're either for discounted food or free food and stuff like that. And a lot of stores and a lot of private businesses accept them. And stuff like that, which then, you know, we can get into that whole conversation about how that drains their profits another day. But
No.
I disagree with Snap and that entirely. I agree with cutting government spending so you can cut taxes so the stores can function at a lower price so they can bring prices down themselves. And now the government
Yeah.
is not wasting money on constant programs that never end up working and end up
Yeah.
dragging down productivity.
So no, I agree. Maximum competition to bring prices down as low as possible, but there always will be some people that wouldn't be able to even afford that, right? And I am from some level of government involvement, but whenever the government gets involved, other than some rare cases, I believe that they should enter in from the demand side and rather than the supply side, to not mess with the market and to increase competition rather than reducing it, right? And just giving people vouchers or money to be able to universal basic income, vouchers for food or medicine or stuff like that. I don't think it ruins the competition. It actually enhances it, because even if the government doesn't run these businesses and maximum competition reduces the prices and increases the quality, there will be some people who will be out of the system completely, and the market will be blind to them because they're not doing any transactions. They're out of the system, right? And the market, as good as the market is, the market is still blind to a few things. The market is blind to positive and negative externalities, and it's also blind to the people who are completely out of the system. So the role of the government is to adjust for positive and negative externalities and lift up the people who are completely out of the system. And the way to lift them up is to lift them up from the demand side. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now it's Jeffrey's turn.
Jeff.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like in the middle, sort of a third way issue. I'm definitely supply side. So there's definitely times where you need public intervention where there's a market imperfection defined as a public need but not a market niche. A good idea would be vaccines, right? Dynamic learning curve, first mover advantage. Provided the public sector can fix the problem, the benefits of the is greater than the cost to fix it, and that the public approach towards fixing that problem is better than private or mixed approaches towards fixing it, provided that it's an investment in productivity, focusing on leveraging organizational and technological efficacy to lower the per unit goods and the cost of goods and services while maintaining the profit margin, so you expand it to a broader demographic, its availability. Ultimately, the goal would be to sit there and turn certain, say, goods or services into non-excludable public goods because they become so efficient that it's too cheap to even price, right? There's a difference between, so what does that look like? Take retraining people that were just technologically displaced between the first and second industrial era. This should speak to you, Samantha, right? So you have a Kondratiev wave. K-wave, very much a term coined by a Soviet economist, Kondratiev, I'm probably mispronouncing that, who very much hated socialism and advised that the Soviet Union adopt a free market capitalist system like America, to which then Stalin threw him in a gulag and killed him. In any case, he came with this conceptual framework. This is industrial. These are economic eras centered around leading sectors and tech bundles. First industrial era, steam, iron metallurgy, coal, replaced by oil, internal combustion engine, and in oil, right? So what do you do now? Using that as a framework, what do you do to help the guys that have outdated skill sets, say like coal, right? Because they've been displaced. So a communist or a socialist or a Maoist or leftist say, we're going to take money from the oil guys, the leading sectors in current supplanted K-ways, and then redistribute it to people who are displaced so that they have free income to subsidize induced short-term consumption of non-leading non-core goods and services. Say for this case, food, right? The problem with that is you're killing your productive base, and they never talk about like the transaction costs and taking money, because you don't just to take money, it costs money. So if you're taking $100 from this guy, this is where Armin's like, I would contend he's got sort of an argument, right? Because there's this inefficiency, right? Takes $10, take $100, now the person gets $90, and Armin's saying just give the $100 to the guy, right? Because then you save the transaction costs. Libertarians or ANCAP say, well, fuck it, let them sink or swim on their own. The market equilibrate. Well, that's not valid either, because there's all these negative externalities there. People don't starve to death on the side of the road. So it's like a neocon do. I'm going to invest in those people to retrain them so that they have skill sets that qualify them for higher levels of employment, and have targeted tax cuts in, say, our home nation, so that national industries have the free wherewithal to hire them when they get out. Well, I don't understand why we don't just give them, money to buy beer and potato chips, because chips are not chips and parts are not parts, right? You have to take the money from somewhere, somehow. You get a lot more positive spillovers, something called the value-added mix of the economy. You get a lot more positive spillovers with things like efficacy than you do potato chips that gives people like hypertension and obesity. There's all kinds of problems with how leftists claim they want to solve shit. And it's never worked anywhere. Nowhere. Not in the Soviet Union, not in Mao's China, nowhere. It's been a dismal failure. That doesn't mean that ANCAP is the right way either. There's very specific reasons and requirements that justify public intervention. And even then, if they're met, there's certain particular ways that has to be done where you can minimize the negative externalities of that public intervention. That's not what Mondami's doing. He doesn't care about people starving, and neither do communists.
Okay, and then one more response from Elisa, and then we'll move on to other topics.
I was so invested in what Jeffrey was saying that I forgot what my point was going to be. So you can move on.
All right, then we will go to super chats.
Okay. That was good. All right. So let's do super chats. By the way, guys, I'm not an ANCAP, just so you guys want to know. There's 4 types of capitalism, and I'm only in favor of one of them, right? There is laissez-faire capitalism, state capitalism, crony capitalism, and regulated capitalism. I'm in favor of regulated capitalism. Not those other 3 don't work. And I also I'm not an ANCAP at all. Like I mentioned many times, I see a major role for the government. I was just telling Alistair that the market is blind to multiple things that the government needs to adjust for. Zipgun, thank you so much for the super chat, saying DSA Maoists consider defacement of their red book as political warfare and justify violence in response. Oh wow, they don't believe in free speech at all. Yeah, I don't. Okay. Is that Samantha not? Yes? Okay, Samantha is saying yes, true. Okay, that's crazy. So Namanda, and that's me, Namanda. Samantha is our expert into all things communist cult related. She's our spy from within. Zipgun, thank you so much for the super chat, saying, I would argue the goals are not the same. Socialist goals are absolute, enough food for everyone. Capitalists believe more food for more people. Yeah, so I'm not talking about socialism. Socialism is like, I think, and communism uh, are is cancer, right? But what I'm suggesting is that well-meaning people who have believed in this ideology, who don't know otherwise, who have just fell for it wrongly, in my opinion, their goal is highest. Their goal is to help humanity. So yeah, maybe like enough food for everybody rather than more food for more people. Whatever, I'm talking about the end goal. I'm not talking about the amount of food or any intermediary steps to get to that final destination. But I think all good people, by definition, in my opinion, because I'm a utilitarian, all good people want the highest amount of well-being for the highest amount of people. Um, so even if they believe that, if they're good people, it's because they think that that produces the highest amount of well-being. That's the way I see it. And thank you, Sulipgon, for the super chat. And then Jens Philip Human, I think, is saying with a super chat saying, I called the mayor Saron Skamdani for a reason. Okay, so now you gave us the same super chat saying that in the last stream, and I had no idea what you're talking about, but now I understand it. We didn't read it properly last time. Saron Skamdani. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jens. And then Zipcom with the last super chat saying the problem with direct payments is misuse. Most poor are poor for a reason: drug abuse, alcoholism, etc. Yeah, I mean vouchers, like pay them in a way that could you only be used like credits, food credits, voucher. Like if you're paying for healthcare, vouchers that could be used for healthcare. If it's food, then for food. Yeah, yeah, but I understand that there's challenges with that. There's challenges with that, but the cost of trying to do that the right way is much less than the cost of associated with the government itself trying to provide the food, provide shelter, provide healthcare. So figuring out a way to make sure that the money you're putting in the hands of the poor, for it to only be spent on the things that they're supposed to be spent on, that is an easier problem to solve than the government providing those services itself.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.